Welcome back, Chappelle. All right. Love it. Love that y'all are back in gear. Love that y'all took your last flip quiz for this quarter. Love that y'all are ready to attack this stuff. Remember, heads up, A and D period, your next test is going to be on Thursday of next week. F period, yours is going to be on Friday. All right, so just remember that, just so you know, just so no one freaks out. All right, so, but remember, you got to look at these flips. You have to listen with intent. You got to, this model of classroom teaching is something that some of y'all are not 100% still. I mean, you're definitely used to it by now. But stay the course, right? Stay the course. Keep pushing. It's going to be fine. And I'm going to try and help add some little stuff along the way that makes them a little bit more engaging. But let's get after it. So we left off in class talking about how, the Enlightenment ideas are going to help inspire the French Revolution. How, the French society was super unfair by this point because it's the bourgeois and the rural peasants and the urban workers, and they're paying all the taxes, and the nobles and the clergy don't have to, and the king loves them the most, and blah, 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 blah. All right, so, but the biggest thing you need to know, some of y'all probably are thinking in the back of your mind, where you're like, why is the taxation thing such a big deal? A lot of it has to do with financial trouble, all right? So mainly caused by this concept known as deficit spending, all right? Very, very important word. Put a star next to it. Underline it, highlight it, put some money signs, put some X's through it, right? Deficit spending is when a government spends more than it necessarily earns, all right? So the biggest thing about when a government is spending more than it's actually earning is the fact that when this happens, national debt goes through the roof, right? Imagine somebody with a credit card, right? Credit card feels like real money, but it's actually not, right? You owe that creditor money, right? So, and also you owe them interest on top of that money, right? Something y'all need to know for the rest of your life. Some of you are like, well, am I ever going to need to know this? Well, look, I'll give you a life lesson. Never get a credit card that's over 15% interest. Actually, heck, I'll go over, don't get anything over 12, all right? So, because the interest ends up what you're paying out into. Let's say you have a credit card that's got 10% interest on it, and you spend $100, right? Now, if it's 10% a year and you never pay that $100 off, when you go to pay it all off, you owe that credit card company $110 because that $10 is interest. Now, imagine you're a government doing this, and you're spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars, ridiculous amounts of money, and you owe interest on all of it, right? So, because that's the thing, that deficit spending was making national debt at an all-time high, right? Because wars and helping the French, or helping the Americans in their revolution, and it's going to force the government to borrow money, right? So now, 50% of French tax money by this point was going just to pay the interest premiums on these debts. 50%. 50%. That is wild, right? That is absolutely insane when you think about loans on a national scale. 50%! Don't forget that. Highlight it. All right, so now, also not to mention the fact that not only does France have, no money, but also they have no food. All right, so bad harvests are really, really making them on the struggle bus, right? Bad harvests are making food costs go way up. Remember when we talked about supply and demand economics in the unit about exploration? We're talking about capitalism as being born, and supply and demand affect the price of something, that if you only have a few of it, the price is much higher because they're rare. And if you have a ton of it, the price is much lower because they're in a surplus, right? Well, food was very rare at this point, so bread prices are at an all-time high. Other prices on other main goods are at an all-time high because of these bad harvests. Because Europe's coming out of this thing called the Little Ice Age, right? Where they're having higher rain amounts and weirdly cold winters, right? So, and it's killing a lot of their crops. Now, also, amongst all this stuff, the first and the second estate still refuse to pay taxes, right? So that is absolutely insane. So you've got all this trouble, and then the most wealthy two estates still refuse to pay taxes. That is bananas. It's bonkers. It's outrageous. All right. So now, bad kings, though, also were a thing that sent France into further debt because Louis XIV thought that mercantilism was the thing. He thought that money was finite when it actually isn't. It's kind of this believed system. And then Louis XV tried to back the Native Americans in the French and Indian War, and then they lost, right? So now you got poor Louis XVI, awkward, weird, likes locks, doesn't relate to people, Louis XVI, It's just, like, and he's now stuck with all these problems, right? So under the advisement of several of his financial advisors, they finally tell him, they're like, look, this is a crisis. You've got to call the Estates General, right? Just so you know, the Estates General is a wildly important concept, and it was called officially in 1789. The last time it had been called was in 1614, 175 years before that, right? Because here's the thing, the Estates General is a council of representatives from each estate, right? We have the three estates, the first being the clergy, the second being the nobles, and the third being everybody else. Now, and it's all about financial reform, and they're only calling the Estates General in times of crisis. So they haven't had a time of crisis in 175 years, right? Now, the big thing about it is, in times of crisis, nobody wants to be the king that calls the Estates General, but Louis is forced to call it because it's just like impending. Why can't I stop touching my hair? So it's just like impending doom, right? So he has to call it, and it's absolutely ridiculous because the Estates General hadn't met since 1614. This is a sign of things to come. And this is what the Estates General looks like, right? It's this giant council inside the halls of Versailles, right? And, whoops, nope, come back, there we go. It's this giant council inside the halls of Versailles. So there it is. And look at all the people. Everyone dressed in, and you can actually even see the classes separated by where they're sitting, right? Up here at the top, you got Louis, and next to him is his queen, and then all around him are all of his advisors, right? All dressed in beautiful colors and these little goofy cape roby thingies, right? So, these people are also wearing these goofy cape little roby things. That's because they're all nobility. The second estate sat on this side, and they dressed to the nines. And then the first estate sat on this side, also close to the king, wearing their priestly garb because they're clergy, right? Where do you think the third estate is? All the way in the back, dressed in all black, and they are very, very, very guarded about. They're like, oh, hey, third estate, why don't you stay back there? The first and second estate got to come in this ceremonial front door, and it was a big parade and stuff like that. The third estate had to come in a side door, like they were hooligans coming in the back, right? This is a very messed up meeting, even just how it's set up. Because the thing about it is Louis is just obsessed with what this estate and this estate think of him, right? That's not a strong leader. So this meeting is pretty much doomed from the get-go. And I know a lot of y'all are like, man, how the heck is the third estate going to even get through this? This is insane. Well, remember, their demands are simple. The third estate just wants fair taxes. They just want to be treated fairly, right? And the third estate is like, look, we deserve to be treated fairly. We are the bulk of France. We are over the 90-something%. We need to be treated with equitability, right? And here's the crazy thing. Do you think at any moment, pay attention to what I'm saying, this is very, very important, all right? So do you think at any moment, guys on this side and guys on this side agreed with some of the third estate members? They did. Several of them did. Not the majority, but many of them did. Many of them were like, you know what, it is really messed up that the third estate has to pay all that money. It is really messed up that the clergy doesn't have to pay any taxes at all. And there were even clergy members that thought it was messed up. And they were like, we're taking advantage of these people, right? Oh my God. One of them was the guy named Sieyès, and he actually wrote a pamphlet called What is the Third Estate? And the conclusion was, it is France, all right? They are the people of France. They represent the everybody. We only represent the 1% up here, right? So the big thing about it is the third estate was getting to people, right? And what they eventually did is they started meeting together. The third estate started going into this hall, and then members of the first estate and members of the second estate, just a few of them, start showing up to their meetings, and they were like, we agree with you. We agree with you. We think that you're right. We think that, this is unfair. And so the third estate says, you know what? Screw it, all right? We are no longer the third estate. No more of these names. We are now the National Assembly. We are now this group of, change-oriented people that want to see things progress forward instead of staying stagnant, right? So the National Assembly, jot this down real quick, is a group of representatives from the first estate, the second estate, and most of the third estate that all want change, right? So, and what they end up doing, it's a great event. Love this event. All right, so you're going to listen to what I'm saying, and you're going to jot this down however you need to. But it's an awesome story, and it makes some sense. All right, so anyway, now, And then this thing happens called the tennis court oath, right? Which I believe was in August. No, not August. Can't be right. In like March of 1789. Let me double check that actually while I'm telling you the story. So anyway, so obviously there's this new group. And this new group's called the National Assembly. And this new group of people is like, oh, hey, we do what we want. We're gonna stay together and we're getting fair stuff. Who do you think's gonna be really freaked out by this? Of course, Louis. Louis XVI is petrified of this idea because there's a giant group now growing that directly dislikes him. You have to understand, Louis is very obsessed with being loved by his people. It's a very odd thing about his personality. And so the tennis court oath happens. And what happens is one day he decides, he's like, I can't do this. It's June 1789, by the way. I was a little off. All right, so anyway, now, so in June of 1789, he was like, I can't let them keep meeting like this. They're just talking about how much they hate me, and they're just talking about how much they think I'm unfair. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what every sibling has done at least once in their life. I'm going to lock them out of where they want to be, right? So he locks the doors to where the National Assembly has been meeting every single time to discuss their goals. And in fury and in rage, the National Assembly is like, you know what? You want to be that way? Fine. And they go and find a tennis court, an indoor tennis court, and they assemble together and they take the tennis court oath, where they swear to never disband from one another until their demands are met and until fairer taxes come to France, and until fairer and equitable practices come to France, and until the monarchy bends to their will. Oh, it's one of the craziest events that's ever happened. And a lot of people equate it to like the signing of the Declaration of Independence in a way, right? A lot of people are like, oh man, the Declaration of Independence is a lot like that. Look at these guys coming together, swearing an oath, saying we will not be a part of this British Empire anymore. But here's the big difference between things to come, right? This is the American Revolution, in a sense, at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Look how calm everybody is. Look how everybody's like, we're going to have a war, and we're going to try to win, right? It's very boring. It's very stale, right? You got Ben Franklin, you got Thomas Jefferson, you got, like, John Hancock, and then I know that, like, there's somebody else around here somewhere. But, yeah, like, they're all sitting down, right? And they're all very, very, no one's smiling. This is the tennis court oath. This looks like a straight-up rave. These guys are about to hug, and he's a priest, and everybody's freaking out. This dude is about to, like, he's about to just take his shirt off, start freaking out any minute. This guy looks like he's a DJ at a club, and it's just like, yeah. All right, so anyway, but it's a crazy event, right? Because, look, that's a clergyman from the first estate. That's a nobleman from the second estate. That's a third estate member right there dressed in his all black, and they're coming together, agreeing, shaking hands, and they will not disband until their demands are met. Oh, the tennis court oath is absolutely ridiculous. And this freaks Louis out, right? Like, this whole thing freaks him out so much that he starts getting an army together, right? He's like, I don't think it's going to stop here, right? And so I tell you what we're going to do. All right, we're going to stop there for the day. Just get this, stop there, and I'll talk to you guys later, all right? We'll talk about the storming of the Bastille tomorrow. Bye!